Hi, this is Scott Carter, and I'm up in the mountains of Utah for the Memorial Day weekend, and certainly want to honor our veterans on this day. And I was working out, so you're catching me really casual. And what I'm finding in the mountains is it's a lot harder to get your breath in the mountains. Either that or I'm really out of shape. But nevertheless, I wanted to do a Walking with Scott because while I was working out, something came to me. And I was reading an article this morning about the Titanic, believe it or not. And it reminded me, we do not want a Titanic investment strategy. On April 15th of 1912, the Titanic sunk and 1,500 people perished. And most would say the Titanic sunk because they hit an iceberg. But I would tell you, the Titanic didn't sink because they hit an iceberg. The Titanic sunk because the builders, the owners, and even the passengers had the wrong perspective. And this is going to make sense about our investing when I finish telling the story. What do I mean by the wrong perspective? Well, most of us know that the Titanic was viewed as being unsinkable. And when it left on its maiden voyage in Southampton, it was the unsinkable ocean liner. So if your perspective is that your ocean liner is unsinkable, then other decisions follow after that. So since the Titanic was unsinkable, when they put in life rafts, they didn't put in enough, because why waste that space for life rafts that will never get used on an unsinkable ship? Let's use that space for bars, for suites, so we can sell revenue and really maximize the opportunity. We don't need all those lifeboats. We're not going to sink. So the Titanic made a decision, because it was unsinkable in its perspective, let's go skimp on the lifeboats. Then when they were actually sailing, there was known icebergs out in the ocean. And because in their mind, the Titanic was unsinkable, they took the shorter, more aggressive route, even though it had icebergs, instead of changing course and taking a safer route. And then finally, even after the Titanic hit the iceberg, they waited and waited and waited before they abandoned ship, because they thought there's no way the Titanic will sink. It'll just take on water and we'll be saved. All three were horrendous decisions that all started not because of the iceberg, but because the perspective from everybody involved in the Titanic was that it was unsinkable. Now, how does this relate to our investments? Do you have an investment strategy that's like the Titanic? Do you think that the markets will not come up and bite you? Do you think that we figured it out this time and that we're forever going to grow? Do you think the Fed has a put and will protect every investor if the market wobbles a little bit? Or are you actually paying deference to the icebergs that are out there? Are you considering, no matter how remotely, what you would need to do to hedge if the market dropped 50%? Well, what if your housing market dropped? How would you pay the bills? Have you figured those things out? Have you identified your icebergs so that you don't have the Titanic unsinkable strategy when it comes to your investment portfolio? We need to be wise. We don't need to be pessimistic. We need to celebrate, but we also need to understand that we need to be prudent in managing the risks and not have the wrong perspective. Our perspective should be long-term, how to ensure a reasonable return that takes away the risk so that at the worst possible time, I don't lose all my money. So don't have a Titanic investment strategy. What you need is a balanced, diversified portfolio with the right assets, and you'll navigate around those icebergs and not have to worry about jumping on a lifeboat in the dead of winter in the freezing cold. Have a great Memorial weekend to all our veterans, both serving today and past. Thank you for standing in harm's way for us, and have a great, great weekend.